How are you guys doing?
We're doing well.
You know, you guys look like
No, we do.
You give that energy. By the way, I really love it. I think I need to grab my laptop and come and work here.
Please
Just sit
come.
in studio.
You join the 5 a.m. club.
I know you wait a bit. Yeah,
must
I'm
be,
an
yeah.
early. I'm an early riser, but I don't think I like to dedicate my mornings to work. I like to dedicate my mornings to thinking.
The thinking.
Yeah,
And
We
praying.
think while working.
and so part of the thinking is praying and reflecting, devotion and everything.
Nice.
Connect with
So
yourself.
you're supposed to wake up at 4, do your devotion, take your time, 5 o'clock, get ready, 5:30, set off, and come to work.
You guys, don't you guys finish at 10? I can come anytime between 5 and 10.
And we're going to be here waiting for you.
No,
Let's
are
do
you
today's
waiting
work.
for me? Are you continue with the show? I'm just your fan. I'll be the audience.
Okay.
Hey.
Today, our conversation is contrary, perhaps, to what you are seeing around. Yesterday, there's someone I owe money who came to me, and they wanted me to pay. They were debt collecting, and they were expecting me to pay. So I gave them reason that my cash flow is not doing so well at the moment, and I am unable to pay. The response was like, "Do not panic. I just came to give you a reminder that when you have the money, you can pay up the money. We totally understand the situation in the economy." And I'm like, what a relief. Yeah? I've looked at the news coming in from Nairobi. The Kenya shilling is doing so badly, depreciating against the dollar. Yesterday, I did ask in one of the groups, professional groups that I belong to, because with the events in the US, Biden dropping off from the campaigns, the expectation that, of course, there will be the ups and downs now for the economy. Speculators, especially in the stock exchange, are doing a lot of speculation of what might happen, what stocks might go up, what might go down. And so I did ask a question, could we expect that the Rwanda franc could appreciate, at least by a mile, against the dollar? And they said, no, you can't expect it. I looked at your notes for today in the conversation. You're saying the unprecedented high revenue per employee rate. And you're saying that there are companies that are making millions of money with just one employee, which raises the questions of, is this even real? I would like to have a company where I hire one person who makes millions. I go home and sit and just give them the leeway to do whatever it is that they want to do. And if so, how is it being done? We have Ephraim to explain to us if this happens, where does it happen? Under what circumstances does it happen? Because all of us would want to hire one person, make millions of
and
money,
do everything and cut the costs.
and we go to that destination wedding.
Less stress. Less employees.
Unless
to
you're
chase.
employing robots.
No, actually,
If it's
it might
house
be.
for one robot.
It might be close to that actually. So, in essence, when I came up with the topic for today's discussion, I genuinely wanted us to talk about how people make money in today's world, new world. Look at what's happening in Kenya. You can see the impact of Gen Z. You can see also in Uganda, the president has had to put his foot down and say, hey, look, if you guys go for these protests, you will see. But again, it's young people. Even when we take what happened here when it came to elections, His Excellency thanked the young people for that turnout, for the efforts, the work. In essence, young people are at this juncture influencing society's the narrative that's being driven in society. Young people at the heart of it, right? Now, it's interesting because when the word influencer came about, actually, it was almost like it was a derogatory term. It was like an insult. If someone said, you're an influencer, then they laugh. It's because people always believed influencers were play. It's like someone who's not serious.
Yeah,
Like-
you go on Instagram, dance, make all kind of funny
And
things.
influence people to follow you.
Influence
Yeah.
people
That's
to
how it
follow you.
usually
So
works.
dance for money.
And so that's so even when I'm looking at Juliana's face, then when you're talking,
You're seeing an
she's
influencer.
like you can just see like the idea of an
But I'm an influencer.
That's what's funny. But my point is this. So influencing was digital because of COVID-19. During the pandemic, a lot of people were staying home. So a lot of people garnered influence on social media because that was where the interaction was. But we're now starting to see slowly that influence is actually going offline. Or at least I would say online and offline at the same time, right? And what that simply means is that there is politics, but also the economy is also being influenced by these influencers. Or at least in part and parcel, the economy is not free of this influence that is happening, that happened digitally, that now is happening offline in the region. Politically, the economy is also being impacted by how people spend money. I'll give you a simple example. How many people still go to a physical shop to buy a shoe in Kigali? Again, I wouldn't say it's many people, but most young people will see something on Instagram, engage with a person on the account on WhatsApp, make an order, and buy a shoe. Very rarely do people go and look, I'm going to the store to buy a pair of shoes. So the reason why I wanted us to talk about this was because there's also an opportunity that I'm still trying to figure out how to tap into it. But it does not negate the fact that it actually exists, an opportunity to make money in this new economy. Now, you talked about the high revenue per employee rate. And you talked about technology and robots. What has happened, or what you see happening again in this new economy, the modern economy, as we call it, technology has changed the name of the game. If you're selling physical products, distribution is no more in the hands. You don't need a lot of money to do distribution. I don't need trucks. I don't need warehouses. I don't need staff who are going to carry these products. No, I just need to have a place where I can get the products within reasonable time. And then I need to just put it in front of the customer's face. If you know Dell Computer. So do you know Michael Dell, the owner of Dell Computer, the founder? When he started his business, one of the things that he did that separated him from all the computer players at the time was he had a system called D2C, direct to customer. At the time, the internet had just come. And he saw an opportunity to sell his computers directly to customers. And so that's where the opportunities exist in today's world. So, for example, that's distribution. Now, when it comes to actually selling products, you don't need market research to know whether a product will work or not. You just go on your social media, if you're an influencer, or work with an influencer, give them the product, hear feedback. And so what that has done, it has opened up an entirely new economy. When you look at the impact of social media, when you look at the impact of the internet, when you look at the number of people you can reach. Let's take, for example, traditional radio media, TV, radio, billboards, the normal channels for advertising, historical channels. The kinds of numbers of engagement, when you compare them now to social media, and the cost associated does not compare. And that is where now, for example, influencers are making money with our platforms. Someone has 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 followers. They monetize it. They say, hey, look, I have these people. My engagement on my posts are 5,000 people. Each time I post something, I get 5,000 people who engage. Of those 5,000 people, maybe we can convert 5% of them into customers. So automatically, they're telling you, I can get you 250 clients immediately if you give me your product and you give me a cut or you give me something up front. And so that's now where the opportunities exist. Now, does that mean you go and become an influencer? No. But you can take advantage of that. And so there are other ways, and I guess we'll get into that.
Isn't it quite misleading, especially for our markets, to say that I'm going to give an influencer my product and they're going to bring me 2,500 clients? Especially for our markets. We don't have Rihanna.
So... you'd be surprised. I was telling this to somebody the other day.
Okay, let me give you, for instance, an insurance product. And I find Juliana. I say, Juliana, I want 2,500 customers this month as an influencer. Who is going to stop by Juliana today? We might see she spoke about the insurance because she's on the digital platforms. but does she have that capacity to influence 2,500 people?
Also, question is, is everyone on social media? Does everyone reach social media in this era? Because it's an assumption just that everyone is on social media.
I see people who are even selling accounts. I have 1 million followers. If you want this account, please buy it. And they sell these accounts. So if you are influencing from an account for simply having followers, if I bought an account, for instance, today, and you're asking me to influence fertilizers.
Now, I love the fact that you brought that up. One thing that we don't have in our market, that is, again, an opportunity. The kind of influences we have in our market at this juncture are not the kinds who can push financial products. They can push consumer goods, lifestyle products. They can push events. They can push services.
They can push a political party.
Yeah, probably.
No, be sure they did for RPF.
Exactly. So my point is, and I like the fact that you brought it up, because again, it's an opportunity. If someone is listening to this and are like, but can the influencers sell insurance products? The answer is no, because their audience are not the kinds of people who would buy insurance products. That's an example. So what does that mean for you who's listening? You're like, maybe I can find a way to fit into that niche that my market or my audience are listening. So if, for example, let me take Isaac. If Isaac decided he wanted to build his following, because his influence is online and offline, right? His offline influence, he has his network. He can sell insurance products. He can. Very easily. He can sell a banking product. He can sell an investment product, because his audience and his client base are people who would willingly want to hear about those products if they benefit them in that context, right? Now, what I'm trying to say is that the opportunities exist across the board. Right now, I would say our influencers can move skincare products. I don't know if you heard of the product, and I'm not going to do an ad placement, but there's a former Miss Rwanda runner-up who they named a brand after her moniker. I don't know if you know about that. Makeup. Actually cosmetics, because it's not just makeup. There are perfumes and other stuff. A random individual. Now, a lot of people thought the brand was hers. Obviously, it's by somebody else. But that was somebody who understood the power of association with influencers. And so what ends up happening is that, and even you as a business person, you can create entire products just for influencers. And name it the Jesse shirt. Like, Jesse's wearing a very nice shirt. And you can create a shirt called the Jesse shirt. Let me give you another example. Now, this one is old school, but it played on the same, it had the same premise. Have you ever heard of the Mandela shirt?
Yeah.
You've heard of the Mandela shirt?
It was like those soft, like colored shirts.
It's almost like the initial African, like what you're wearing now. Like this is what we call made in Rwanda now. Mandela had something like that. It had an African pattern. It was his shirt. And so somebody saw an opportunity and named the product the Mandela shirt and went and did it, and it became a thing. And so that's what I'm trying to say. Like, the opportunity in the modern economy is, how do you leverage attention? We've talked about advertising. Jesse, this radio station exists, and its primary business model is advertising. Why do people keep giving you advertising dollars? Because advertising is effective. And advertising, the best way to advertise is to get attention. There's a saying in business that there's nothing like bad press. You've heard that saying. So the whole logic is, once you're in front of people, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. And the whole idea is, you can decide whether you're going to focus on the clients who. So I was listening to, again, a podcast. I always say this, but I'm always listening to podcasts. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about you can decide whether, from your perspective, you can decide whether you're going to go the route of advertising or you can go the route of word of mouth. They said sometimes you can achieve significantly more by getting people to do word of mouth through advertising. Now, that's what I was saying. There's nothing like bad press. So if we talk, how many people talked about Biden's resignation? or stepping down, as they would call it? How many people talked about Donald Trump getting shot in the ear? That is people talking about it. It becomes a form of word of mouth. So the question is, as a business, how can you do that? Again, I repeat, in today's world, the opportunities that exist online. Then you ask me a question about the number of people that exist on social media. Let me give you a simple example. There are 2 billion people, active users of Facebook.
There are actually 3 billion today.
You see, 3 billion people.
Crazy.
3 billion.
It's about 36% of the global population.
Crazy.
3 billion. And so, I mean, at that juncture, what else do you want to, like, okay, let's do, you've heard the calculation they say. If you want to become a millionaire, convince one person to give you $1 million or 1 million people to give you $1. So the question is, where can you find $1 million people to give you $1?
Online.
It's cheaper, it's quicker. And now here's also a brilliant thing. You talked about Rwanda. The good thing with technology is that you can expand your reach beyond Rwanda. Let's talk about guys with YouTube channels. And in the age of AI and all this technology, where someone can create content without necessarily having to create the content. If you can find a niche that meets your audience's need, let's take, for example, Rwanda. There is very little content, educational content, technical content in Kinyarwanda. I was saying this to somebody yesterday, actually. He was like, me, I'm a very good speaker, but in Kinyarwanda, I'm like, you are the ones who can make money. And he's like, well, how?
Wait a minute. There's no technical content, you say, in Kinyarwanda?
I would say what exists out there that's popular, that has made rounds more than anything, is entertainment content.
Not sexualized content.
I don't know about that. I'm not a consumer of that type of content, so I would not know it.
Not educational content.
Yes. So like how many podcasts have you heard in Kinyarwanda that dive deep into entrepreneurship?
Well, I've had podcasts that dive into Urukundo.
Exactly.
How to make a man happy and
exactly.
Yeah.
And so
in Kinyarwanda, right?
In Kinyarwanda, yes.
So if someone goes and does that, right? And you hear me saying this. And if you're listening and you're like, I want to do that, look for me on social media and we make it happen. Jesse is also here. I'm sure he's also somebody who would love to push you. If you have good content, give you a platform. But I'm saying, if you did that and you had it in Kinyarwanda, automatically your market increases. You have, let's say, how many Rwandans are online? Let's speculate and say for about 4 million, 5 million. And then the interesting thing about social media, let's talk about YouTube, is that as long as the video exists and people keep watching it and ads are pushed through those videos, you make money. I was watching, there's a young guy, he's a columnist at New Times, but he has something called, he has a vlog, but he also has something called Mucho Piano or something like that. And he was talking about how much money he got paid for one of his videos. I think his video had 100,000 views or something. And he talks about also his channel and how he makes money. And I'm like, this is a salary in Kigali. Like, this is a salary.
How much money are we talking about here?
I think he was saying he's getting about $400, $300 a month. And I'm like,
for the 100,000 views,
his channel. So his channel has different videos. So because you don't know which one. Okay, you can check the analytics and see which one is being watched. But his channel picked up, and so because they keep serving ads to people through his videos, he keeps earning money. And now, if you go and do the research about YouTube, how YouTube pays out, there are certain types of videos. For example, finance and education videos around money tend to generate more revenue per view. And so the question then comes in is, how does somebody sit and say, I want to take advantage of that to make money? Because again, we're talking of the highest revenue rate per employee. You could be one individual plus one other person and you're making, I don't know how many millions of francs.
Let me first sit and ponder. Creating a platform where you're talking about finance and money in Kinyarwanda, do you think you'd make rounds with people wanting to hit on the channel?
Definitely. I mean, if Isaac
versus rumors and
no,
and sexualized content.
You see, sexualized content and rumors have their audience. But
the bigger
But are they
audience.
making the money anyway?
Actually,
they
yeah.
have the
That
hits.
kind of content, does it make money?
It has the hits, yes.
It still has an audience, and so it's still, the people are not badly off. They are making something, you can see it. But compared to the opportunities that exist with, again, because at the end of the day, it's about advertisers, right? You need an advertiser to push content through your product, through your platform. An advertiser is not going to push content, an advert through a platform that's talking about, again, like you said, sexualized content or just the jokes, what we call imbogo. So the whole logic would be, if you can create, like, again, a Kianda version of Money Matters, or it's Money Matters, right?
Yeah.
You find you can go to banks, you can go to institutions and say, I have an audience of X. You have Mortgage 105 by NCBA. You have, I don't know what product from MTN. I don't know what product from which bank. You can say, me, I have this audience, I have this platform, let's push some content through me. Or maybe you bring me a product and we do an affiliate contract. That market exists. And again, even as businesses, if you really want to push your product, think about how you can create a content strategy around influencers to push your product and market it. It's significantly cheaper, especially if you're a small business. It's significantly cheaper, but the uptake is really, really good. That's the modern economy.
I would really want to understand. Let's talk about sustainability. You know, sometimes we are influencers because we are popular. Today we've done something outrageous, and we got hits, and people checked out our platforms, and that is it. The next day, in today's world, there's a new hit. You're no longer the hit, right? So you're no longer, because we feel like we are influential when we are being spoken about in the moment. And when somebody else appears and they're being spoken about, you're all gone. And the question is, if you're a business and you're working with influencer X, and then comes influencer Y, and no one is talking about X, how do you jump onto Y? And where do you balance in with your values?
No, so that's why I said you have to have a plan. If you're a business, so there are two sides, right, to this conversation. So one is, I want to be an influencer. The other one is, I'm a business. I want to take advantage of this influencer space. Let's start with the influencers. As an influencer, it's about relevance.
Totally.
Yeah, relevance is not even just limited to influencers. If you're an employee, you have to be relevant to your employer consistently. And what that simply means is perform on your job. If you're I was about to say, if you're a spouse, you need to remain relevant to your spouse, but that is another conversation for another day. If you're in a society, you need to be relevant to that society. You need to add value to that society. And so the same thing happens with influencers. You need to remain relevant. How do you remain relevant? What I've noticed is, when you look at, let's take musicians globally. Those are I think the ones we can see right in front of us. When you see how consistent they have been, or at least how they have, some of those who have stayed in the limelight for some time, it's about consistency. They keep outputting work and quality work. And that can only be done through hard work. So if you're an influencer, don't pursue influencing to make quick, easy money. Pursue influencing as a legitimate career opportunity that you would want to get yourself into, and as a content creator.
But you also know that the world judges influencers in a different way, looks at them in a different. The world hasn't accepted yet influencers. You've also noticed that?
Let me give you a simple example. Do you know Kim Kardashian? That was the original. Her and her family are the original influencers. And actually, someone was saying that she's famous for being famous. That is literally what her fame is. But do you know what has helped that family? Is that they had a strategy for consistency. They were like, how can we always remain relevant in the eyes of people? How can we get people to always talk about us? And so that's what I'm saying. If an influencer, people are going to eventually come around and buy into this whole influencer movement. But in the meantime, let people talk about you, even if it's not good press. I'm not saying go pursue negative imagery, but if someone is going to say, but these influencers are not, that's still talking about you. And so you are relevant, even if it's negative. And so what I'm trying to say is that at the end of the day, just ensure that your your product offering, your existence is relevant to and enough for people to want to talk about it, because that's where you now garner some influence.
For the sake of learning, and I am willing to throw some light, and we have news coming up, but we're going to borrow some 2 minutes, Ephraim.
Yes.
For the sake of learning, do you have influencers, those you call individuals who can influence you in Kigali towards a certain action? Let's say to make a heavy purchase, a home, for instance. Somebody who you would find online and they would influence you to actually make a purchase. Hoffman would?
Yeah, Hoffman. Have you heard?
Is Hoffman an influencer, or is he a
is.
seller of homes?
He's an influencer. In the context that, what is an influencer? Let's not get lost
So you
in
would
it.
actually take what if he influenced for a certain product, you
Housing.
would look out for.
Housing. Hoffman is in housing. He's and I like the shout out to you if you're listening to this. If he's not, if you're a friend, tell him.
I met him over the weekend at Sundown.
I'm a fan. You should see the way you should see. I know. You should see the way he does his presentations. I'm gonna send you a link, and you'll understand why. When he goes to a house, he's thorough. And he doesn't just, it's not fluff. He's telling you that this is a house, this is the neighborhood, this is the cost, this is what it has, these are the amenities. And then the good thing is that he actually does this offline. So his influence is not online and offline. So if I come across a Hoffman short, I will stop. Or a reel, I will stop and listen. And
I want to have an
whatever he
understanding.
says-
Is Hoffman an influencer, or is he just an advertiser? Is he the ad?
So that's what I'm trying to tell you. I think maybe we'll have part 2 of this next week. Hoffman, I consider him, by my definition, an influencer. Why? Because he has a platform from which he can influence people to do things. That is what an influencer is. A platform owner. So he has his YouTube channel, he has his social media channels, and his content lands in front of us, and it's like, okay, let me click and hear what house he's talking about today.
The second person.
You want more? Jesse's my Jesse. Royal FM. Okay, but me, I gave you right off the
I
bat.
said for the sake of learning, you can avoid me.
I can avoid.
So
No,
who is that second person that you would get influenced by their work?
locally. I'll let you know.
I actually thought you were going to put him on the list.
No, that's why I said Jesse. He refused. He
Yeah.
refused. But I'll be honest with you. At the end of the day, if you are somebody who's looking to get into this space, or you're looking, whether as a business or as an individual, I would say sit down and understand how you can create value, because it's about value. People give money to people who create value.
Right.
Yeah, lately, I started to follow Kate Bashabe. Do you follow her?
No, but
You-
I
you-
know
you don't.
I don't follow.
Would,
her.
would you regard, but you know her?
Yes.
Would you regard her as an influencer? She's doing some work with PSF lately regarding the upcoming expo. I think it's this month. Yeah, it should be this month. And I found the things that she's doing to be quite captivating, beyond what I have seen other people try to do, which is get a poster of a brand and post it and put it out there. But I see her; she's involved in processes, and the call to action is quite spot on. But we also know she comes from a fashion industry. Are these the right people to be making influence?
So let me tell you the interesting
She has
thing.
numbers on social
Let me
media,
tell you the
yes.
interesting thing, and that's what I want you to forget about. People think that they are in control of their spending habits. People think they're in control of what influences them. We're not. And that's why any psychologist will tell you, whatever you expose yourself to will shape your thinking, whether you like it or not. The environment you live in, the content you consume, the people you're around will influence who you become. The same thing happens with our spending habits. Whether Kate is the one who does it or not, if you interact with that content, at some point, you 1 time, 2 times, by the time it gets to the 5th time, you're going to want to go to Expo.
So basically, everyone is an influencer.
What I'm trying to tell you is that if you're a business and you're trying to get influencers to push your product, you need to be strategic about it. So study the methodology, study how to do it, and then direct the influencer. Tell the influencer, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. This is what we're going to do. Versus just saying, here's the product, whatever you decide to do with it, you do. What I'm trying to say is that ends up becoming effective. So in the context of Kate, she has done a fantastic job. I've not seen the content, but from the perspective that you say you were captivated, I'm assuming it has worked.
But also just say, not everyone can be an influencer. Let's just be honest. Because that's what you asked Ephraim. Not everyone can be an influencer.
What's your perspective?
I look at it in a different kind of way. I'm thinking an influencer should be someone who understands the brand, the product that they're about to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who has a following. Someone who has a following not only online, but even in society.
Yes.
Back in society. Because, I mean, we have numbers online, but does that even make sense? You can have the numbers when people don't even know you. And it won't make sense on the product you're going to be selling. So not everyone can wake up and be an influencer. You can be an artist, a big celebrity, you sing very well, you're a good performer, but you're not an influencer. Is that possible?
And you can even have numbers.
There's some artists who people just like the music, but they don't consider them the most intelligent.
Yeah, it's like having that drunken uncle in the family. People love him, they love his jokes.
But they can't take advice from him.
They cannot take advice from him. They just do not take him seriously.
So those people exist, yeah.
And but also sometimes some companies tend to give their products to people who are actually going to waste their products and think that those people are going to influence for their products. Sometimes they mess them up.
Being funny, being a comedian doesn't mean I'm going to buy. When you hold, an MTN product and you are funny with it and you have likes, it does not mean that we actually are going to.
Actually, that's another thing I was going to tell you. And so what I've noticed is something that I wanted to just highlight before we close this. People tend to be influenced by people they see themselves in, or they aspire to be like.
Yes.
And so if they see Jesse, and Jesse is a media mogul, and they are like, I would love to live like Jesse's life. I would want to be around the people Jesse's around. I would want to do the things Jesse does. If Jesse comes and says, this book changed my life, guaranteed people are going to go and read the book. Yes. But if people just find you entertaining, and you come and say, read this book, they'll be like... Okay.
So we have to be careful on who exactly influences our products.
And that's why I'm saying, coming back to this, the opportunity exists. If you are listening to this and you want to be a content creator, ask yourself, how can you fit into that niche? Again, being authentically yourself, but also creating value for not just the people who listen to you, but also the people who actually would want to channel their products and advertise through you.
Ephraim Ramwenke here on the 8 at 8. We need to have a meeting right after this.
No problem.
Kigali in the Morning brings you the 8 at 8.